Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us this holiday weekend. I'm Ravi Rajan, president of CalArts, and with me today is Provost Tracie Costantino. With the classes close to starting here in about a little more than a week, we wanted to personally welcome you to our community of artists. This year is very unlike any other at CalArts, and unlike any other in our lifetimes for that matter. And so we'd like to speak with you a bit about how we're approaching this moment and maybe answer any questions you might have. New students, you are now part of the CalArts family, what we call a CalArtian. Congratulations on what we know was a long road to get here, made only longer by this pandemic. For students and families who are returning to CalArts, we're very glad to have you back. Most importantly, I want to say thank you. Each and every one of you has chosen to stand together with us in this most difficult moment, probably the most difficult in our lifetimes. Each of you has chosen to persevere, to keep making art. Your commitment makes that possible. Your commitment, along with your resolve, your resourcefulness, all of that is the backbone of our community. So won't take too much time talking because we want to reserve as much as we can for Q&A. So I'll try to keep these opening remarks short. Those of you who know me know that sometimes I can talk a long time. So I'll begin by broadly speaking about our approach during the pandemic and the work this year. And Tracie then will dig more into the specifics on the academic side. I wanted to note up front right now a couple things. One is that there is a Q&A function. And so you'll, when we get into the Q&A part, you'll want to type your questions there and then we'll read them out. Don't do that until we're finished because there may be an answer to something that you have that question about that Tracie will be able to answer or that I'll answer ahead of time. The other thing is that there's another town hall session immediately following this one. And so I suspect many of you are already signed up or lined up to do that. In that later assembly, Bailey Kuhl, our interim executive director of student experience, will join Maria Victoria Perez, our director of care and well-being, and Jess Love, the director of campus life, to present information and answer questions about our student experience. They're ready to discuss how CalArts is offering support and how we will support and engage our students outside of their coursework. Many of you know Bailey from her work as the director of the Patty Disney Center for Life and Work, a role that she's still playing. She's taken on this interim leadership role of student experience team this year as well. Brian Harlan, our associate provost for integrated learning, is spending more time focused on our 10-year reaccreditation process, which is something that all colleges and universities do in a periodic way every 10 years, and continuing to expand our integrated learning initiatives with all the changes this year. Because of the pandemic, we're forced to maintain remote delivery of courses for the fall semester. You all know that by now. But not only that, the County of Los Angeles is still restricting the presence of students on college campuses. They're restricting that to outdoor pickup and drop off of equipment and supplies. They're doing this given the COVID-19 transmission rates that are causing challenges to LA County public health. So we continue to monitor the situation daily in order to ensure the health and safety of our whole community and to stay in step and in sync and give the county information from our end. We hope that we will be able to use some of our facilities soon and that in-person instruction might become more possible during this academic year. We don't really know anything more about that right now. For the time being, if a student needs to retrieve something from campus, if it's for a class or otherwise, we're asking that students contact public safety and make an appointment. So anyone on campus for any reason is going to be under orders to follow strict social distancing, masking, and other safety protocols that are required by us and are very necessary in this moment to keep the transmission rate low. This summer, our faculty spent months innovating and refining remote course delivery. So Tracie will tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. The staff have adapted our events and services at the heart of our community to be available during the pandemic, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in the following session with student experience. We're all committed to making this year as rich and as impactful as possible. It's important that students attend the workshops we've prepared to help them get the most from these adapted offerings. There are changes from years before. Students, you should familiarize or re-familiarize yourself with the Center for Life and Work, including robust internship and career support opportunities that we have. The center will be meeting this year with every single BFA1 student. This is important. We do want to make sure that everybody's not only developing and growing as an artist, but are also thinking about what that means for their path ahead, how they can harness themselves as an artist in this extraordinary time, preparing for what is a landscape that's going to be very different than one that we all thought we might be experiencing. And how can students, when they leave CalArts, take an active role in creating and shaping that space? That's super important. It's a big part of what CalArtians have always done, and we're trying to create additional support right now to make sure that that changing landscape is something that we are in direct dialogue with. So we've seen wonderful engagement from our students during the orientation this last week. We see you making new friends and getting excited, and I'm personally so encouraged by this enthusiasm. This generation of artists, your generation, is going to help society rebound from this pandemic. You are the artists that will make models of a world that aren't plagued by systemic racism. You are the artists whose work will make us better as a people and who will help us see the world more clearly. We need that creative innovation, that generative innovation, as we break down the structures of injustice, both seen and unseen. Historic times like this demand that artists engage the world and help us make sense of it all. Families, you too are the partners in this community. We put a high value on that partnership as our students keep growing as artists and become those citizens of the world. So as you keep tabs on them, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know what's working and what we might do better. Now I'll turn things over to Tracie, who will talk a little bit more about our academics in the fall semester. Tracie? Tracie, I think you got to unmute. I think you're stuck. Very good.
Thank you. So sorry. All right. Okay, let me start over again. Thanks everybody for joining us today. You know, I love the excitement of a new school year. So much anticipation and eagerness. This year, there's also a sense of relief to be ready finally to launch the fall curriculum after faculty, program directors, and deans have spent the past summer months, pretty much all summer, making plans and learning how to maximize creative technologies to offer the CalArts experience we all value. After all, experimentation and resourcefulness is foundational to what we do here at CalArts. So just to give you a few examples, there's a faculty member in design and production in the School of Theater who's employing cloud-based collaboration software to facilitate teams working on design projects this fall. Another example, in the School of Music, for ensemble classes, they'll be exploring new software that allows students to play synchronously remotely. A faculty member in critical studies who teaches science has developed a collaborative data project with partner schools in LA County, really I think in the whole state of California, because being able to give students an opportunity to work with larger data sets by partnering with these other colleges. So that's just a few examples of the wonderful innovation that our faculty have engaged in to make this fall semester really exciting. So students, to help you make the most of this semester, please seize on these wonderful offerings that are really at your fingertips. Students can find out also how to access equipment. Ravi mentioned this a little bit through the curbside pickup, or we'll also be shipping some equipment domestically. So you should just contact your programs to find out how you can do that. And also, very importantly, please be sure to participate in Course Advising Day. That's this week, coming up on Thursday, September 10th. Students will be able to register for classes designated as permission of instructor. It's also, this day is a very excellent opportunity to meet with mentors and advisors to help you finalize your fall schedule. So the Course Advising Day website will be going live pretty much Thursday morning, maybe Wednesday afternoon, and there will be a listing of all of the Zoom links or email contacts for faculty so that students know how to engage in this day and in the online registration process. All of the forms that you'll need for that registration process can also be found on the Course Advising Day website. The logistics of remote learning will bring new realities in the form of both asynchronous and synchronous instruction. So faculty have been working very hard to develop their courses over the summer to engage both of these modalities so that we can accommodate different time zones, both domestically and internationally, because we really want to make sure all of our students can be fully engaged and fully participate. Well, I think we can all agree this has been an extremely difficult and challenging 6 months. This moment also, though, provides an opening, an opportunity for us to stretch our creative thinking as artists and as educators. What students will be learning through these efforts will help them become the leaders in shaping artistic practice going forward. So I'm so excited to now open up for your questions. And we hope we'll be able to answer all of the things that you're wondering about.
Excellent. So Abby Salling in the president's office. Some of you know Abby. Abby, you can say hi. Abby's going to help us bring questions to the fore, as well as some of the things that have been on deck, I think, before we even started this. Abby?
Hi, yeah, just a reminder, there is a Q&A function in the bottom of your screen. Please just type in your questions there, and then we will be able to answer them or have Ravi and Tracie answer them as we go forward. There is one question in, so I will start with that. Will students be able to meet outside in small cohorts at all? I assume this means on campus eventually.
So, and the question was outside, which I think is a very good question. Right now, that's not allowed by the county. So the county has been very restrictive because of the transmission rate. And that is that they've restricted student behavior on campus grounds in total, as well as in campus buildings. Campus buildings being most restricted, saying they're not allowed. But on campus grounds, it's really the exchange of things like equipment and to do those kind of procedural things with safe, almost like drive-up methods, et cetera, et cetera. So meeting in small groups right now is not permitted. So that's something, I mean, the logic makes sense. You know, that's something that we can all imagine that they might allow before they allow use indoors, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we're just tracking it with them, you know, step by step, trying to keep everybody's health and safety as the priority.
Thank you. And can you just, as a follow-up to that question, talk a little bit about what CalArts has been doing to prepare for when we are allowed to return to campus in terms of both the use of space and also what's going on with our outside areas?
So it's a great follow-up there, Abby. So we had been heading towards this moment, and Tracie could talk a little bit about the summer preparations were all for hybrid learning. So in the end, we wanted to do this kind of hybridity that I think is being described, where we do experiences in person, but we also do experiences mitigated through the screen, like we're talking about. So it was going to be a mix of all of those things happening. It became clear that, you know, with the health and safety, that wasn't going to be something that was going to be allowed. So we said, listen, we need the time to switch to that, and we switched to that. And then even with the switch to that, we still were saying, well, we can use the building for certain things that adhere to protocol that we understand. And we all go to the grocery store right now, right? So we wanted to say those are ways we'll be able to use. An individual student use of an individual space seems safe, right? But for reasons of community transmission and circulation, they don't even want students coming to things like ground. So they've really clamped it down and be restricted. So the question about planning, you remember, go back, we had been planning to do all of those things. So while the instruction is not going to come back to in person, even in the hybrid, there was some really, you know, socially distant safe instruction that was planned. We had backed off of that. Our hope is to return first, obviously, to the use of the facilities and the space and all of those things. Just like the outdoor question, peeling those layers that are there. We also have plans to engage the outdoor space. We have 60 acres, those of you who are returning know. And so we had wanted to use tents and different things and definitely outdoor spaces for instruction. That is all on hold because we're not allowed to do it, but hopefully in that kind of hybridity, as we talked about instruction, that stuff can engage. Tracie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what's great is we are really prepared for when we are able to bring people back to campus and given that permission. So all of the rooms have been measured. So we know just how many students and faculty can be in that room when we're allowed to maintain physical distancing. Everyone will need to wear masks. That's a requirement. We have a screening process in place that all of us who are essential employees for CalArts have gotten used to, having our temperature checked and being asked the screening questions. So it's good we're really fully practiced in that this summer, so that when eventually we're able to have students on campus, that should be a very smooth process. So essentially the whole building and outside buildings have been mapped. So we know just how few students can actually be in those rooms to maintain that physical distancing. So we'll be ready. I mean, what's wonderful is once we're given the permission, we'll be ready to pivot and bring students back on campus.
Awesome. And then just to follow up again, so the plan is, as of right now, is to move into a hybrid or hopefully all in-person model for the spring semester, given what we can do, what we can predict about the virus.
That we're ready to tilt, right? Yeah, we're ready to tilt. So just like we were doing in the summer, and I'd say we're more prepared now because we did the preparations in the summer, right? So it's a little bit your adventure is chosen for you. It's not choose your own adventure. I'm dating myself with these little children's books. Part of the deal is that we have to respond to what's allowed. And so I think what you're hearing from us is our intent is, and we understand that in-person instruction with a community back on campus is our goal, right? So, but we have to sort of peel the layers of the onion to this point. We're at kind of the most restricted. We're saying students can't even come on campus. And if they do, it's like through a drive-through method. So we remain the most restricted, which even when this started, we didn't have that kind of clarity. So the public health authorities are giving us that kind of specificity. And when I say direct dialogue, I'm in contact with the public health department of Los Angeles County, with USC, with UCLA, and with Pepperdine. So the 4 of our schools are in direct contact specifically for this kind of activities for the arts, right? Because we have similarities that in the physical use of space. So we are pushing everything, doing that all as possible to really understand exactly when that can happen. But right now, they're not physically, even like I said, on an individual basis, a student using an individual studio, which is no interaction, students are not allowed in a building at all. So that's how restricted we are. We had hoped those kind of things would happen, that you could check out equipment from the film cage with an appointment. As Tracy was saying, we understood where we could reduce the density and say, okay, well, that many students can be on campus, so we check you at the gate and you come in, et cetera, et cetera. We can start to put those things into place as it starts to be allowed. But we're going to have to look. They may start allowing certain uses and not other uses, right? So we may have to adapt our plans and get that to have happen. So we made the best estimate based on health authorities. And again, we have Timothy Brewer from UCLA, who's been helping us all summer. We have the chief medical officer of the Mayo Hospital, Dr. King Ho. So we've been trying to track all of that. So the idea is that we don't lose time when we're doing those things, if that makes sense. But I can't give you an answer because I don't have an answer. Because to do so right now would probably be not feasible in terms of health, which is what the public health authority is, and not legal. So we want to stay on both sides of those things. I hope that clarifies, because I'm looking at the Q&As and there's the specificity. Can the dance, can I use the this, I'm trying to give the general advice because you can apply that to almost any one of the métiers. And so we're just not there yet. They're just not allowing us. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, it really is unfortunate. These are the things in the last couple of days I've just been, kind of wringing my hands over, because it would be a very different situation if things had lined up differently. If the incident rate didn't go up from the last holidays that we had, we saw the rates go up, right? That's starting to settle down right now, but how are they they're going to be super cautious now, I can imagine, about allowing interaction because of course what happened last time. So, which is always in our best interest. So as much as it bothers us, and we'd like to go back, and you can hear even in my voice, I think, the desire to do that. It's in our best interest, and we have to trust that.
Thank you. Tracy, this question is for you. There are some students who have some of their classes preloaded into their schedule. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of classes people would be signing up for on course advising, and what the role of course advising has been in the past and what it will mean this year?
Sure. Yes, so the required classes are usually preloaded. So that makes sure that students are registered in the classes they need to make progress in their degree. So that's what the preloads are. Course advising day is really reserved for what we call permission of instructor courses, where students, they're more like electives, or they may be required electives, but students have a lot of choice as to which class they want to take. And the really wonderful thing about this event is that students get to meet with faculty one-on-one and hear about the class, explain what their interest is, and then get permission from the instructor to register in that class. So the real focus of that day is the faculty-student engagement and mentoring, so that students are really excited about the classes that they're signing up for. They understand the nature of the class, and they've already started a relationship with that faculty member by having that conversation. So the difference this year is that we will do it over Zoom. Usually there are a ton of people in the main gallery having coffee and donuts and waiting in line, and this way we won't be able to be in the main gallery together, but students will join a Zoom for the class that they're interested in, and then be able to submit their registration forms online and do online registration.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that not every program has preloaded classes. The question was specifically about dance, but I know from my time as a student, I very rarely had any preloaded classes. So it does depend on your program. So if you don't see any in there, that is also totally normal.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. No worries. I just know that that question came up in a previous event, and I wanted to make sure we were clear. There's a question about the technical capacity of the systems we're using, and has there been any thought or testing to ensure that the networks that we're using can cope with the number of students and that we have having to use them in terms of like Zoom, obviously, and other different systems?
This is a good question. So without geeking out too much with you, because this is somewhat in my background, the pinch point that we're finding in our system, so the answer is yes, sort of, in as much as possible, and that's the sort of. The pinch point that we find to see in the systems, and you may have seen reports of Zoom crashing, I think last week when, last week or the week after, it seems like days go by, but basically lots of higher education institutions came online all at once and essentially created a problem and a crash and a bottleneck, right? But unfortunately, those bottlenecks are not in our system, weren't in any individual university system. As you can imagine, universities are sort of geared for their own capacity. And a lot of this is not happening at the university level, right? Meaning when you're on this Zoom with us, it's not going through CalArts at all, right? We're using Zoom to basically host that, and wherever you are, and ostensibly that's not on our campus, so it's somewhere between your internet service provider, the Zoom servers, which bounces a bunch of times, and then that same pathway to me at this point, or to Tracy or to Abigail. So it becomes very hard to trace the capacity, if that makes sense. In as much as we have control over those things, obviously we've informed Zoom about like, we need these webinars with this much, et cetera, et cetera. And, we have not had those kind of technical problems with Zoom or with those things as of yet. Same is true for the learning management system. In the end, the servers are on the cloud. So that's individually between the person and the learning management system. Doesn't actually go into CalArts in terms of the system, if that makes sense. And so we remain in dialogue, and one might say the mercy of our vendors who do things like the learning management systems, like Zoom, our communication systems. And our hope is we're not as late as some. I think UCLA starts a little later than us, but we're kind of in the middle. So maybe some kinks came out with this first round that just happened 2 weeks ago. I know Zoom quickly, and it's amazing that they got back up in the same day, but they quickly added their pipe capacity, transmission capacity in terms of their servers to be able to handle that. So that's an important piece of how that is. So we remain in dialogue. Doesn't mean stuff isn't going to happen. Stuff will absolutely happen. It's kind of a learning process, but good question, an interesting question, one I asked myself. So that's partly why I had to sort of figure out and can give you such a detailed answer.
Tracy, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, this question came from photography, but I think it will kind of expand to a lot of different métiers. There are people who need specific equipment, or in the case of photography, like especially film photography and film printing, there is equipment that they can't necessarily do at home, or equipment that they may not have the money to buy or rent. Can you talk about what CalArts is doing either to accommodate that or to allow students to make the art that they want to make, even if their abilities to do it is hindered a bit?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So specifically, the School of Film Video has developed tech kits, we're calling them, métier specific. So it's for each of the different programs. In the School of Film Video, what are some of the equipment that students will need? And then the idea is that either students can come and pick them up. That's Ravi's talked about this idea of curbside pickup. So if you're local, you can come pick them up, or we will ship domestically. Or for international students, students can be reimbursed or be given a grant, essentially, up to a certain amount to help them secure that equipment. The same in the School of Art, which was mentioned in photo media. They are doing a curbside pickup process as well. And then thinking about how to help get equipment to students who are not local. So every métier has developed a plan, essentially. And the best thing to do is to contact your program director to find out exactly how you can secure that equipment. But really, everybody has figured something out. So it's a little bit different because it's all dependent on what the program is. So the best thing is to get in touch directly with the program.
Thank you. And then do you have, there was also a question about how absences will be handled, and if a student has a loss of power or internet. I know here in LA it is extraordinarily hot and people's power has been going out. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we've talked quite a bit about that over the summer. So we have kind of revised the attendance policy to be more flexible and really open, because everybody has challenges with the internet. The faculty do too. Some faculty will be teaching from campus, but others will be teaching from their home. So it may be that a faculty member loses power too. So it's kind of like everybody's in the same situation. So there's a lot of understanding about that. And the most important thing is just to maintain communication with your faculty member. So if you have a problem, is to send an email, or if you can't at that moment because you've lost connectivity, is to follow up very quickly. So there's really just, everybody understands there's a lot of flexibility, and the faculty just really want to help students make the best of this moment as possible. So I don't want students to worry too much about that. You have to be engaged and you have to fully participate in your classes, but there are different ways of doing that also depending on what happens on a day if you lose power. Just everybody understands. We're all living through it.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions about different things that would be pretty normal on campus in terms of like IDs and access to the library and things like that. First question, will new and returning CalArtians be issued IDs, and will they be mailed out to people who are not in the LA area, and will the people in the LA area be able to get them?
It's a good question. So we have a small school, so we have a couple people in the registrar's office. So the priority obviously right now is course advising day and getting the courses and that to happen. And we obviously know that you're a student because you're logging in, et cetera, et cetera. One of the next priorities is going to be the ID card. It's made slightly less of a priority because we aren't immediately using the building. So we were going to use the ID card obviously as the trigger for I don't have symptoms, I scan my ID card as a proximity to get in, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, we're trying to focus on how do we provide the best service for the course advising. That'll be the next thing that happens. Obviously, because of the situation, we're switching from we're going to have a time for you to get your ID card because we assume people could be here, to doing it through mail and that sort of method. So once everything is done, we'll be able to do that. Obviously, you have to take a picture. Those of you who don't have an ID card, so we're going to figure out picture submission and stuff. So they're working on that. That should happen soon. So those of you who are in, Michigan won't have to come to LA to get an ID card. And sometimes students get discounts and stuff You know, if you're in Michigan and it's like you just get a student ID discount for something. I was going to say the movies, but we're not really going to the movies, are we? So anyway, we will be making that happen.
Okay. And then in terms of the library, I have two questions. One, I assume is from a returning student who has an overdue book, and they're wondering how to return that book. And another question is, how will the library resources be made available for students?
Yeah. So the library, like the rest of us over the summer, has been greatly expanding their e-resources. So subscribing to additional databases and just trying to make as much available as possible. There's going to be a kind of increased scanning frenzy as well that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks as faculty members establish their course readings. And so there will be lots of things available electronically, but the library will also be open for pickup because there are some materials, you know, that we can't scan or that there's nothing like a book, of course. But again, that's for people who are local, but they will have a pickup process as well. In terms of the overdue book, I think just contact the library directly and they'll let you know what you should do about that.
Thank you. We had a question about synchronous and asynchronous classes. How, for classes that have some synchronous elements, how will that be handled for students in different time zones? I know earlier this week there was a panel with a student who was in Hong Kong, and they had, and then there's one in Serbia who had to wake up at 4 a.m. in order to join. Will there be things like that that need to happen? And like, can you explain what that system will lead?
Yeah, I would say it's every course, every faculty member is figuring out how to manage that according to the needs of the class. But we've been having every Friday, we have a kind of faculty pedagogy meeting on Fridays at noon where they're talking about all of these different things and sharing strategies. And every faculty member is extremely conscious of the time zone challenges, as not wanting to ask a student to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be able to get to class, because we know that's very difficult. So they'll be using strategies like we have a learning management system called Learn. And so they'll be putting things up on that site. Some faculty may choose to use Google Drive or some other kind of resource that has all the material there for students to access. And then could be that they have a kind of office hours time that can be synchronous according to time zone. So the whole idea is super flexibility and trying to accommodate students where they are geographically. And it's just, you know, going to be different by class, but I just want to reassure that faculty are very much thinking about that. There will always be materials available to access asynchronously. And then each faculty member will figure out how to engage with the students in their class, depending on where they are in the world.
Thank you. And then there was a question, I think that'll kind of follow up for this, is do either of you see a benefit to students who are able to moving into the LA area this semester or this school year at large?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I think it has a lot to do with a lot of the stuff you've been hearing right now, and a lot of the things that some of it is conjecture on timing of things. Some of it is how much important you put on certain values. So I'm going to make a hypothetical. Let's say towards the end of the semester, some campus use is possible. Is that important to you? Or you say, well, you know what, we're going to look at this semester by semester. Let's figure out what happens next semester, or let's figure out what happens next year. I mean, I wish I could tell you more saying, yeah, that's going to happen this semester. It's possible we go through the whole semester, that doesn't happen, right? But we don't know any of that stuff. And so it's hard to answer the question with any specificity. Sometimes those decisions are very, they're personal. They have a lot of factors that have a lot more to do with the person's own comfort and decision-making. I've had discussions, one-on-one discussions with many parents where it's the time zone differential, you know, there's synchronous and there's asynchronous, but somehow being in the time zone, even with the other CalArts colleagues, you know, students and colleagues, and being able to have that was something that was desired. This was a family that was on the East Coast, right? So even that time differential was enough to say, well, you know, what we ended up wanting to do is go get the hotel, because at the least when it was group work that was going to happen on Zoom and stuff, the timing was the same. It wasn't like that their student was that many 4 hours off, right? So again, the importance of that, how does that feel? One advantage I think we have right now is that you have a little bit of time differential, meaning it's like before you were like, oh, you had to move in and do this right now. You could probably try this out this semester and say, you know, it's a little bit better. It seems worth it to do that. Also keeps you from being beholden to, oh, we found an apartment at this date. You know, there's the ebb and flow in terms of rental rates and stuff. So you have a distinct advantage right now to say, you wait until it's actually a low period where rental rates go down, and then you could create a lower, better deal in terms of a rental, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of factors in there. I've talked to a lot of parents about this, that, and the other, and everyone seems to arrive at a different answer. Some are just like, no, we're absolutely going to find an apartment, and they know people that they've been there before, particularly continuing students. So they're going to do that, but they're going to do it during the semester. We're not going to do it right now because it's kind of hectic, but we'll figure it out during the semester. That way we can take time and do those things. And so there is that flexibility now that's happened, but I can't tell you, yes, next semester that's going to happen. I mean, I wish I could tell you, but we thought we had a certain trajectory, and until about a month ago, we had that trajectory. And then all of a sudden the transmission rates went up. And again, that's a delayed effect, right? Transmission rates were going up a month ago from what happened in Memorial Day and then eventually July 4th, right? In terms of people's behavior. So we don't have control over people's behavior. Those are the things we have to somehow react to. It makes this very difficult, but it also kind of reinforces something I think is very important, and it's important to our community too, and it's the community aspect of this. We're all in this for each other, and I think that's the thing that we have to remember. It's we have a civic duty actually to protect ourselves and to protect one another, and I think that that's something that's really important to our community at CalArts, and is something that's coming to the fore in broader society in the United States right now. And we see those things are better and worse and higher and lower, right? We see examples of it going well, and we see examples of it not going well. So we are really conscious of that in our balance of the things that we're doing. And I think that that's super important. It's something for us all to remember and keep in mind.
For sure, thank you. Tracie, can you talk a little bit about how gallery shows and performances will be handled this year?
So as I shared in some of the examples that faculty are working on, an example of how the School of Music is working with new software that helps ensembles to play together. They've also developed kits for faculty to be able to live stream from their living rooms. In fact, maybe some of you got to see the concert that the School of Music, some faculty in the School of Music put on in August. So we're using software for those kinds of performances and exhibitions. So everything will continue. There'll be mid-res reviews, but it's just that it will have to be done virtually until we're able to be back on campus. But we will have those virtual exhibitions, virtual performances, all of those things. We just can't be in the same room together, but it will all continue.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more question about Course Advising Day. In the past, it's been done by time slots based on last name. Is that continuing this year? And when will students be getting that information?
Yes, I think the registrar sent out some emails on Friday that I think that information might have been in there. If not, of course, Erin, our registrar, will send it out again early this week. But yes, it will be split by last name, just the same as last year. We actually tried to keep as much the same as possible, considering that so much else is changing. So to have some things that feel familiar. So it'll be 10 to 1. Okay, now I'm trying to think. It's flipped. So it's 10 to 1, second half of the L through Z, I guess. And then the afternoon slot will be A through K. So latter part of the alphabet will be in the morning, and then the beginning of the alphabet will be in the afternoon slot.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, because the questions have slowed down, please, if you have any questions, use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to head over while I'm hoping people start typing to the document we had prepared before of FAQs, and I'll start at the top and work our way. No, I won't because we've already answered that question.
Actually, Abby, I did see one question that I wanted to reinforce about Course Advising Day while you're doing that, if that would be okay. To really be super clear, everything's happening electronically. So we know another part of Course Advising Day used to be waiting in lines and handing in a physical piece of paper. No more physical pieces of paper. We will be using a kind of workflow system where it's an electronic form that will be emailed to each person that needs to sign that form and give the permission, and then eventually it arrives in the registrar's office and they will be able to put it into our system. So no worries about having to mail in forms or anything like that. It is all happening electronically. So I don't want anyone to worry about that. And those forms will be available both on the registrar's office site, and we've developed a specific Course Advising Day website where those forms will be available as well.
Thank you.
There's a question in the Q&A space. Do you want me to grab it, Abby?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about outdoor gatherings that have nothing to do with CalArts can people. So it may be a question from someone outside of this area. We're not in a stay-at-home order right now, so we aren't locked down as has sometimes happened. However, the social distancing protocols are very strict, as you can imagine, because transmission is trying to stay. So you're not allowed outside without a mask. You are not allowed to be in proximity to others that are not part of your family unit, germ pool, as it were, in terms of 6 feet. So that's still there. People are getting violations and citations for those things, even if they're on, let's say, public property like a beach or something. As you can imagine, this is hard to enforce. So there is that piece of it, but the intent here is for people's health and safety, right? So we're trying to use common sense as well as what we know about the transmission of the virus. It's interpersonal transmission. It's mitigated by being outside. That's clear. Everybody's asking questions about outside, right? Masks are a huge thing. If both parties are wearing a mask, that's a huge thing. So we know all of those things and those are in place. So the question was like, are they allowed to? In my interpretation of what's happening, because they're not part of the germ and the family unit, they aren't allowed to. And the specific engagements that we've been talking about have to do with specific industries, like the film industry, and they have to follow very specific protocols when people who aren't in the same germ pool are interacting with each other, if that makes sense. So that's my best, it's no expert, but that's my best interpretation of the intent of what the restrictions are for. It's so that, right, I mean, if we know this is community transmission and you interact with someone and unfortunately they are infected and then you're infected, if you curtail who you interact with, you don't spread the infection. That's the name of the game at this point. It's the only mechanism we've got to mitigate the transmission. And so it's the only one we have to use, and we have to use it pretty heavily. So if we knew, not to get, further down this road, but a little bit, if we actually knew where the virus was, so if testing capacity was far greater than it is right now, and let's say, I don't know, governmental agencies were able to put a lot of effort into that, as other countries have done, that might be something that actually would have let us mitigate the situation in a better, and by we, I mean everybody, all of us, right? But we don't know where it is. It's not something that we know that even symptomatic people are only a fraction of where this is. And so for someone who's asymptomatic, they could spread it to someone for whom it's deadly. This is the kind of thing that we're just trying to protect each other. So it's very hard to figure out, but until we can get those testing capacities and those things, and we as a society can get that to happen, that will be great. We, of course, and you've heard it earlier this summer, have some of those protocols in place in case that something happens, and we're trying to plan for testing. But even as this ebb and flow went, while we had our testing providers figured out and they said, yeah, we'll give you 48-hour turnaround, then all of a sudden it's like, well, you only get 2-week turnaround because the incidence rate went up. And so the testing capacity is really the bane of a lot of these problems. And so I'm off my soapbox, but you heard that.
No, thank you. And there's a question from the FAQs that I think is a good follow-up for this. Will there be repercussions on the CalArts side if students are found to be engaging, like either in rehearsals off campus when they're not supposed to, or the way the FAQ put it in parties? I know that other schools have had those repercussions, but those have been schools that have on-campus housing open. And so could you clarify if that is going to be a thing at CalArts?
Yeah, there will be repercussions. I mean, you're exhibiting a gray area. So it's like, it's a little bit he said, she said, and how that happens if it's not on campus, right? But presuming that we have on-campus interactions, if a student violates the rules of the on-campus interactions, that will be dealt with immediately. There's zero tolerance for that. And it could include penalties like you don't get to use the campus anymore, et cetera, right? So these are things you really want to do. You may be prohibited from doing them if you just say, well, I can bend the rules. The rules are not there for us to be jerks. The rules are there to prevent community transmission. That's it. That's the only reason we're doing any of this, right? So it isn't like the man wants to get you, the boogeyman, right? It's actually just to keep a virus from spreading, right? And that's the only reason. So while it seems heavy-handed for CalArts because it's a very open environment, my God, you have to figure out what time I can even be on campus. That's very antithetical to the way we run things. It is the kind of thing that we have to do in terms of our behavior modification in this moment. And that's because we don't have testing capacity that's rapid. And the only thing we have to combat this virus at this point is to reduce community transmission. That's the reason. That's the only reason. But it is, yes, there will be consequences. There'll be consequences for employees too. So this is not just students. This is anybody, right? This is not just a student and we know and you don't know. It's not that at all. Employees have the same kind of consequences which relate to employment, as you can imagine.
Thank you. We got one more question in the Q&A. I think this question is specifically about dance, but I think it applies to anyone who needs space in order to do their work, actors and a lot of art included. Will there be accommodations for people who need space in order to do their work if they can't? I also think musicians who can't necessarily rehearse in their home would be a part of this.
Yeah. So this is something that the faculty have been thinking through all summer long. So they're designing assignments, understanding that students are not going to necessarily have private space or large enough space to be able to do the kind of work that they may want to do or have been used to being able to do when we were all able to be on campus and someone could have their own studio, for example. So everyone really understands that and has really been designing their courses with those kinds of parameters in mind. So I don't want students to really worry about that. And the best thing to do is to reach out to your faculty member and say, this is my situation, and talk to them about how you can really honestly do some creative problem solving. I mean, it is an opportunity to see what we can accomplish in these kinds of restrictive parameters. So faculty that's what they understand. And so they just want to talk to you about it and help you to problem solve, and they will work with you.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that we have about 8 minutes left on this call. So if you have any last questions, please send them in. In the meantime, is there anything that either of you would like to talk about specifically that hasn't been answered yet or hasn't come up as a question yet?
I got on my soapbox for a second. Tracy, you want to get on yours? Something in this moment. Well, something in this moment that would be important for, in terms of our philosophy and how we've been proceeding and what we're trying to keep in focus, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I just, I've hinted at it. I think, I want to be sensitive to also the idea we talk about creative problem solving and seeing this as an opportunity. And it is all of those things, but it's important that we all acknowledge how difficult it is and that these are challenges. And I guess what I've been trying to convey is that we're in it together and that the faculty have similar kinds of challenges. They don't necessarily have their office to come into and be able to work in a quiet manner like they would normally. People have families at home. For everybody, students and for faculty, that is part of what we're all navigating the best we can. So I think it's just really important that everyone recognizes and appreciates that we're all in this together. And we just need to work together to figure it out. And that all summer long, honestly, I've been working with the faculty and just hearing their empathy and their tremendous efforts to make this the best semester we can under the circumstances. So I really want students to not worry too much. you know, and know that the faculty are here to work with you in whatever situation you're in. And, you know, we're just all in this together. I think that's one of the most important things that everybody should remember.
Thank you. I think that was a lovely soapbox. I just want to remind everyone, as we are nearing the end of this session, that there are also sessions today from Student Experience, which are based on your time. Also, like there's 2 sessions today. There's one starting at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and another at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is in about an hour from now. Ravi or Tracie, since we are nearing the end, do either of you have a closing statement? Now that I've asked you, yeah, do you have any closing statements?
We sort of did the soapbox thing. I mean, listen, I want to reemphasize something that I said already, and so it's a bit of a broken record. We're not doing any of this because we want to. We're just not. This is nothing. It's antithetical to everything that we're have been doing at CalArts, that we intend to do at CalArts. And I think in this moment, maybe that's hard to believe for some people. You know, and I think in this moment, we're surrounded by basically unfulfilled expectations and not knowing what the future means, not knowing what tomorrow means or next semester. And so the hope is that by asking, I might have some clarity, Tracie might have some clarity, somebody else might have some clarity. We have to proceed with some mutual trust that there's not an intent to do this, you know, to make it harder on people. But there's also very little advanced sort of desire, meaning there's very little advanced sort of planning to saying, oh, well, you know, this pandemic is going to be like this, so we won't be able to interact with each other. Now that we know the specificities of that, protocol, if you will, or the things that we have to do, we're working around those variables. But the problem exists that those variables are going to shift, even when there's something that, even when we make progress. Even if testing capacity gets upgraded, there'll need to be a shift. That's going to be a shift in behaviors. And again, I don't think, expectations get shifted. It's like, why is that shifting? You're doing this on purpose. You're making confusion. So that's part of the anger, which is very normal, I think, in this moment, because all of us have so much that's happening. So it's really unfortunate. But I do think this notion of sticking together, knowing that we're looking out for each other's best interest, is the way that we have to proceed. So it's, again, I'll reiterate, if something comes up and you need clarification, please, write an email, get a hold of folks and say, hey, look, this isn't working so well. So is there something else that can happen? Sometimes the answer is, that's a great idea. It can't happen right now because we have a capacity issue. It can't happen right now because of whatever it is. The ID cards. Ideally, it would have been great if everybody had an ID card in their hand right now. CalArts is a small place, right? We didn't realize we're going to have to mail out ID cards until right when they said, no one's going to be able to be on campus. So this is part of the problem, right? And we knew that literally weeks ago. So we had plan A, and then the plan B is the mailing. So we know that's in priority, that comes later. I'm just using that as an explanation of the kind of change, rapid change that has to happen, as well as the ability to do it and these kind of prioritization things that we have to take into account. You would all be more angry if you couldn't get into your classes online than if you'd had or didn't have an ID card. So again, as the flood of stuff comes out, it's very difficult to deal and do with that. All of that is to say, let's just proceed with that charity with one another. And I think that that's super important. We will, with you, I promise, if there are instances where that doesn't happen on the faculty or the staff, please let us know. Because the idea now is that everyone's being put upon and we need to all help each other out to do it. And this is the way I've been trying to encourage folks to proceed in the midst of this loss, in the midst of this difficulty. How can we support one another? So that's my 2 cents. Now there's this weird pause.
All right, I know. I think we have some things that if somebody is frozen, ironically, but I mean, I think you said it, Ravi. So, I think it's important to finish with those words. The idea of charity and generosity is in collaboration, and we are a collective, the community of artists, and that we do that both virtually and when we can be together in person, so.
Awesome. And with that, I think we are going to hop off. Just a reminder again that there is a student experience panel in an hour. And I thank everyone for joining. Ravi and Tracie, thank you for your time. And yeah, I hope all of you have a lovely rest of your long weekend.
Abby, thank you. Thank everybody for coming to this. Again, let's just stay in contact in all the different ways. I hope you engage that panel that Bailey's going to help lead next. It'll give you lots of detailed information on what we're doing directly with students in the student experience, which is the things outside of a classroom. Be well, and you know, I look forward to seeing everybody when we can see everybody. Hard to read the room when it's like this stuff, and I really, one of the best times for me is, the two best times I think for me is the beginning of the year and when I get to meet all parents and families, and the end of the year where we have all the showcases and all of that stuff, and then we have our graduation. So it's been very hard with this pandemic to enjoy those both times, and my hope is that towards the end of this academic year, we can maybe do some of that. And in CalArts style, if we do, that's going to be a big blowout. So thank you all.